Welcome to Closing the Growth Gap for May 30th, 2024. I'm Ben Scanlon, co-founder of Mosaic Growth Solutions, and this is my vacation edition. Yes, I'm on vacation, but there's a number of great topics related to growth and marketing I wanted to cover. So here we are. First up, Guillaume Moubish, founder of Lemlist, says his biggest mistake as a founder was not niching down enough. And in doing so, when he's talking about his experiences, he lays out a playbook for challenger brands. Then, Shabaha Ali goes on a much needed rant about the importance of brand. And then finally, my fellow co-founder, Neethi Patel, talks about the importance of growth in addition to profitability, and the numbers support having both areas of focus. So let's get started. Okay, let's kick this off with this post by Guillaume Moubish, and he's the founder of Lemlist. And in this post, I found it really interesting because through his experience, essentially he created a playbook for challenger brands. I mean, it doesn't have everything in it, but I love that it's based on his experience founding Lemlist. And so let's take a look at what he has to say here. Here's the biggest mistake I've made as a founder: not niching down enough to keep a clear and specific ideal customer profile. And I say niching down, you might say not niching down enough. When I launched Lemlist in 2018, our product was solving a very specific problem: helping sales teams get more replies to their sales prospecting emails. But he says as they grew, they realized it could solve problems for a lot of different people: sales teams, outbound agencies, growth marketers, etc. So who do you focus on? And how do you make sure not to miss out on the big opportunity? My mistake was not willing to answer that question and stay broad. But staying broad is the same as trying to please everyone. In the end, you please no one. So then he lays out what he would have done differently. Look at your founder market fit. Which persona do you connect with the best and why? Who do you want to truly help in the next 10 years, no matter what will happen? And so this is really related to establishing your vision and your brand. Like, how are you trying to make your customer and prospects successful? And your vision needs to be tied into it. It's not just a vision for your company, but what does success look like for your customer? And then you develop a brand that makes sure that happens. And so I agree, starting out with this, what he calls founder market fit, but I say vision and then brand. Find out who benefits the most from what you built. If you realize you connect well with a few personas, then ask yourself, who could benefit most from the solution you've created? So this ties in exactly what I'm saying, is that when you start out, you need to think about how your customer is successful, not just what it means for your business, but how your customer is successful. And a lot of people don't do this. They think too much about what success looks like for their business, but you're not going to win that way. You have to think about how your customer becomes successful. If you make them successful, then your business will be successful. The simplest way to do this is look at churn rate per persona. In our case, sales teams using Lemlist had a churn rate that is 3x less than the founders who are creating their company. And that makes sense. When you're just getting started, you usually don't know what messaging works, and finding product market fit is really hard. Last but not least, I'd look at the competitive landscape. Building a successful business is extremely hard, but it gets a lot easier when you're in the right market. Having competitors is not an issue if you have a clear differentiator in a well-defined niche, but having way too many competitors will increase the risk of commoditization a lot. Now, this is the important part, I think, from a challenger playbook perspective, is the competitor landscape. And it helps inform these other points. I mean, he says, look at your own churn rate. A lot of people won't have enough customers to say, I get meaningful data out of my churn rate. So what can you do? You can see what's causing your competitors' customers to churn and say, I really want to solve that problem. And the truth is, as I've shared many times, is that these small brands are getting 80% of their customers from competitors. So you're stealing customers from your competitors. You're not bringing new people into the category. And so you start with this competitive landscape and understand why their customers are churning and who their customers are. And it makes your path forward so much clearer. So he really highlights in an effective way. And he doesn't use the competitor as the foundation for how you can develop this. But if you're really getting started and working in a competitive environment, looking at your competitors is absolutely critical. Like I said, the research shows small brands get 80% of their customers from competitors. And essentially they're getting no one who are just new to the category. So look at your competitors to see why their customers are churning is absolutely critical. And then, so then you know who your target is, who your ICP essentially is. It's going to be your competitors' customers. And then you understand what niche you really need to fill. If customers are having a certain issue with their competitors, you fill that niche and you do it better than anyone else, and you have a great path forward to growing your business. So I really appreciate these insights. It's great to see that he arrived at similar conclusions in founding this business. So this is a playbook that would work. I mean, he grew his business without doing this, but he said he would have been a lot more successful and been a lot more faster if he focused on these areas, which I totally agree with. But again, like I said, it can be easier by looking at your competitors first and understanding the challenges their customers have, and then you know who to market to. So don't think about how you bring new people into the category. Think about solving these problems for your customers. Okay, let's take a look at this post from Shabahat Ali. And he says, when I ask marketers that promote brand marketing what it actually is, there are a lot of words in response, but no real answers. Most marketers seem to be suggesting doing marketing that's simply not direct marketing, meaning not accountable for instant results, except that there's nothing else being said. I believe that all marketing is brand marketing. There is no meaningful categorization, because even when we say we're doing demand gen or direct response, we're still influencing our brand. Every time you interact with the market in any way, you're opening up an opportunity for your business to be perceived a certain way, which is your brand. Your promise, your perception is your brand. And this is what I say all the time. It's all of your customer interactions, it's all of your prospect interactions is your brand. It's how they perceive you. And so you want to make sure that you're not taking actions that are degrading your brand. And that's what happens when we have this distinction between brand marketing and performance marketing or demand gen. Because performance marketing demand gen is not saying anything about brand, they put practices in place that are diminishing the brand. You could create a bunch of terrible SEO articles to drive traffic, but when people actually get there, they're like, this brand isn't saying anything. It's not trying to engage with me. It's not meaningful anyway, and that degrades your brand. Or you could gate low quality content, again, degrading your brand. Or the sales team would go through, instead of calling 3 times for follow-up, we're going to do 10 times to get in front of them. And so it's affecting your brand. That distinction is not meaningful. You have to account for your brand in all of your marketing. And even from a performance standpoint, I mean, it's called performance marketing or demand generation. That sounds great. Oh, I want to drive leads. I want to drive performance. But if you look at the data and research, things that are traditionally called brand marketing versus performance marketing, the brand marketing things drive performance too. So even that distinction in terms of trying to distinguish between channels is not meaningful even when you look from a performance standpoint. If you look long term, things that were traditionally associated with like brand awareness, like print or TV, things like that, they actually drive performance. But by putting them in this category of brand, you say, I'm not going to look at them from a performance standpoint. And then finally, brand awareness is absolutely critical to driving overall growth. And so this labeling of different tactics with performance versus brand is actually hurting businesses from a growth perspective. So I'm really glad that he shared this post, because this is really important. We need to retire the distinction between brand marketing and performance marketing, because it's meaningless and it's damaging brands, which is affecting growth overall. Okay, finally, let's take a look at this post from Neethi Patel, who is also co-founder at Mosaic Growth Solutions. And she raises a really important point here. She says, those of you who follow me know I don't really post about the financial side of the B2B SaaS industry, but this SaaSer podcast hosted by Jason Lemkin really resonated with me. We all agree the 2021 grow at all costs era is gone, long gone, but getting alignment on what the market values today is a little more difficult. Some founders think it is profitability, but the truth is that profitability alone is not sufficient. It has to be paired with a compelling growth story. And so what she's saying is that, look, everyone's focused on profitability, but that alone doesn't cut it. Growth is missing from this equation. And she provides some examples here from the SaaSer podcast. Look at these 3 high-performing B2B SaaS companies: Dropbox, HubSpot, and Veeva, a CRM platform for life Sciences. They all have 2.5 billion in revenue, but HubSpot is growing strong at a 24% growth rate with a 17% profit margin. Veeva is growing at 12% with a 39% profit margin. Moderate growth with high efficiency. Dropbox generates $1 billion in cash with 33% in margins, but is only growing at 6%. The result, HubSpot and Veeva are valued at 13x ARR. Dropbox is only valued at 2.5x ARR. And so this just shows data highlighting the importance of not just profitability, which everyone's focused on now, but also growth. And we can't give up growth. And it's important here in terms of your valuations. I mean, for most of us, we're not being, don't have valuations in this way. But I mean, obviously, this is some data supporting the idea that growth plus profitability is critical. But also growth is critical because it increases market penetration. It's going to help grow your brand. You can't just go through and say, we're going to get to profitability, which a lot of people are trying to do by expanding relationships within their existing customer base. All the research shows that we really need to drive new customer acquisition to grow our brands. It doesn't happen just through profitability. It doesn't happen just through expanding relationships with our existing customers. It has to happen through new customer acquisition. And this is data supporting the idea that ultimately profitability plus growth is why your company will be valued highly. And this is, so it really adds some, it's a good discussion to have in terms, from where we are now, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish from a growth perspective. It's not just profitability, it's also driving new customer acquisition, new growth. Okay, 3 points for driving growth today on May 30th, 2024. First, the experience from Lemlist shows the importance of defining a niche, solving the problems of the customers within that niche. If you're too broad, you won't make anyone happy. Instead, focus on a specific ICP and try to make them successful. That's how you'll drive growth for your business. 2, remember the importance of brand in all of your marketing. Your brand is all of your interactions with your customers, the perception of your company from those customers. And so you don't want to adopt any tactics that diminish your brand. And 3, yes, everyone's focused on profitability, but we can't forget about growth. So as you develop your strategy for moving forward, make sure it's not just focused on profitability. Think about how to drive growth as well, and that will ultimately make your business much more successful than just focusing on profitability alone.